Hey, what's going on, guys? So this is going to be part 3 of exploring my Minecraft survival world from 2013. So in part 1 we covered this part of the city, the central and north district and over there. In part 2 we covered the south district. Now for part 3 I would like to cover this monstrosity, otherwise known as Minecraft Towers. Yes, that's what we called it. That sign is still there from late 2014, I want to say. So this actually started off as a two-story building and stayed a two-story building for about a year. So it kind of stayed. You can actually see this was the old roof. You can even see the glowstone was put up here because we wanted to keep mobs off of it. But this was the old roof of this tower slash skyscraper. You see, that's the thing. The official name for this tower is actually called Minecraft Towers. That's the official, actual name, but nobody called it that. People would call it the Skyscraper, was the most common name. The other name, people would just refer to it as the Big Building. I just kind of just call it a monstrosity now, because it's pretty ugly. Honestly, I think this makes this whole city uglier, but I digress. So, basically, the idea of this was, it started off as a two-story... Oh, I just broke something. It started off as a two-story building for storage because we kept getting griefed early on in the creation of this world where people would come in and they'd just steal stuff or whatever. So what we did was we figured we would put all of our items inside of one building, which in hindsight seems like a terrible idea because then they can just steal everything at once. But the idea behind it was the only way in was these used to be iron doors, not wood doors, and you'd have to place a lever down. They didn't have a lever here, so it would take someone longer to get in. They'd either have to break into the building or place a lever or a button down to actually get in. And in this area here, we had two hallways. The entire inside was redone for the most part. This was like a little lobby area here. Then there was two hallways. You would go down here, and on either side of you would be tiny, like, maybe 3x4 or 2x5 rooms. And you could just kind of put chests in there, and they'd be behind iron doors. Again, the purpose of the building was to make it as inconvenient as possible for someone to grief and steal items. So, you'd go down the hallway here, and then you could turn left, and then there'd be more rooms. This actually used to be one of the storage rooms. This is what's left of it, except I think the door used to be like right here or something, and you would go in, and obviously it wasn't filled with all this stuff. There was no villager in there. But yeah, so this used to be a storage room as well. The door used to be here, not here. And you could actually see this may be one of the original chests. I don't really remember. So there was the first floor. And at one point, I'll get into the history of the mine in a minute, but yeah, this is the second floor, which later on got turned into like a marketplace where people could sell different... Oh my. People can sell... Yeah, and people could also do their own services. Like, some people were builders. This guy was an assassin. He has whole instructions here if you wanted to assassinate somebody. But that's what it became. So, down here, I mentioned the mine. We actually had a mine going back years ago. I think I showed it in the first video, but basically, this building, when it was 2 stories tall, got abandoned because we realized that putting our stuff in one area when we were worried about griefers was probably not the best idea. So, the building became abandoned and nobody used it anymore. We took out all the torches inside because we were scarce on torches at the time. Mobs used to spawn in here. So what I did during one of the faction wars to kind of hide our source of resources was I started this mine inside the abandoned storage building because it was abandoned. You know, any griefers would figure there's nothing in there to grief, there's nothing in there to steal or to break or whatever. So we built this giant mine, which was all dug by hand over the course of... Really, it was only used... I mean, this world was played for about 4 or 5 years, where it actually had a good amount of active players on it. But it was dug over the course of about 2 or 3 years. Then it kind of dried up. No one used it anymore. But, yeah, the idea was we could mine stone or iron or diamonds even and just do whatever we needed in here. I don't know if I mentioned this in the first episode, so if I'm repeating myself, I apologize, but we actually fought 2 withers down in this pit. There were 2 withers that we spawned right around here and fought them. We had like 3 or 4 of us. We all drank strength potions and just pounced on him as soon as he spawned. We killed them in about 5 seconds each, but we spawned it down here to prevent it from destroying the rest of the city. So that's kind of the story behind the mine. Now, if we go up here, I mean, the mine has a lot of history behind it. I could probably do a whole episode on that in itself, but I don't really have time for that. So I think that would kind of be a bit boring, even though the history is there. So, going up from the first 2 floors, around a year after this world was created, we got the idea of, let's make a building so big that it goes up to the build height. We just can't build anymore. The game won't let us build it any higher. So that's how this thing started. So originally, this staircase on the side of the building, which is nearly as... it's like half as large as the regular building itself, wasn't going to be there. Originally, the only way to get up or down was via this very slow elevator, and we realized that no one wanted to use that, so we made the staircase and realized that the staircase, despite costing a ridiculous amount of cobblestone to build, was nearly as slow as the elevator. Not to mention, running up here would cost a lot of food from your hunger bar, and also mobs, because it was hastily put together and poorly constructed, would sometimes spawn in the corridors of this stairwell. Now, we had a lot of different floors. Basically, the system behind it was we had an in-game currency. We used different items for currency over time. And the system behind this was that you were basically allowed to purchase a floor of the skyscraper. You were allowed to purchase a floor for 1,000 in-game dollars. And if you did, you could do whatever you... the only conditions were you weren't allowed to alter the outer wall. But on the inside, you could do whatever you wanted. And some of the rooms I made, but some of them people bought. But at the end of the day, because it was just a giant, ugly cobblestone structure, not many people really bought into it. So a lot of the rooms were vacant. Actually, the skyscraper's technically incomplete. This was somebody's apartment, I guess. Not sure what they were trying to do here. There's a hole in the floor that leads to the top of the marketplace. But yeah, basically people could just buy... here's another... someone else had another floor here. You could just buy a floor and do whatever you wanted with it, which at the time was kind of valuable because this is during the time when this world was popular and we had faction wars going on left and right, and if you lived down there, say in the South District or even the Central or North District, it was pretty likely that you were going to get griefed just because your house was easy access, easy to get to, and easy to run away from. Where people in the skyscraper tended to enjoy a little bit more safety, the skyscraper didn't have issues with griefing. This is a shooting range that I had made a while back. This was supposed to be a museum, believe it or not, but unfortunately what happened with it was we originally had the dragon egg placed in the middle here, and then someone stole the dragon egg and we burnt down their house. Again, I may have mentioned that in one of the other episodes, but yeah, we had a dragon egg and someone stole it, but then we ended up getting it back, and then we burnt their house down when we found out they stole it. But this was going to be like a little museum. We were going to have, at one point there used to be all 16 colors of wool here, but we moved those. We had the dragon egg. We were going to have a bunch of little different things that we thought would be neat, but it never really got completed. Now, which is a shame, because this floor, which I built, this floor was such a pain to build. The amount of times that lava connected with water and became obsidian, I can't even tell you. The amount of times I just got set on fire and died from the lava. This was a pain in the ass to build. Came out really cool, but never got used, unfortunately. So we can go up here. Looks like... oh yeah, when I mentioned that once you bought the floor... once you bought the floor, you could do whatever you wanted with it, as long as you didn't affect the rest of the skyscraper. I meant you could do whatever you wanted with it. This guy literally filled his entire floor with cobblestone. And according to the game's, the rules on this world, the laws we had, that was perfectly legal. There was nothing wrong with it. He wasn't violating any rules, so people could do what they wanted. But like I said before, you can see there are windows in this tower that weren't even finished. None of the rooms are furnished, aside from the specific rooms that I made, but we were at least supposed to finish the windows, but for the longest time there was actually a glass shortage on this world, because as you look around Diamond City here, there's really not a whole lot of sand, except for over there, which actually got more recently worked up, but you can see here, there used to be a lot more sand along the coast, and it all got mined, because a lot of it went to that. So we had a a sand shortage, which meant we couldn't make a lot of glass. So a lot of these floors you'll see are empty, and of the empty ones, they don't have windows in some cases. This was supposed to be a spa that I put on cloud level, so when the clouds would move through the walls, it would kind of look like, you know, steam. Never actually got used. Don't really know why I built this. Also, a lot of the doors are missing, just because people vandalized up here. We had this pool, which I think we used like twice, which, funny enough, you can't access by the stairwell, which I don't know why. I think we ran out of doors, so we just placed fence here, because that's all I had on me. Again, this building was a very much unfinished project. Again, another floor with no windows, another floor with no windows, a floor with half a window here, a random cobblestone block, apparently. But there was a lot on this world. Again, all this was built in survival. I actually still have the original survival file separate from this creative file of the world. I just put it on creative so I could show around for YouTube easier. Again, this was vandalized. Quite a few floors were actually... They had cobblestone put where their entrances would be, because the thing is, there would be kids that would join the world back on the Xbox, and they would come into the city, see this giant tower, get lost in the tower, and then they'd just break a window and jump out and kill themselves. So, yeah, kind of a bit of a cursed tower here. Like here, you could see a whole bunch of floors. A whole bunch of floors that got covered up with cobblestone. Now, this was going to be a bank. And it was kind of like a storage building part 2 idea, because the original bank in the West District got raided and looted and robbed so many times. So we put this vault here that nobody ever actually used, because it was such a pain in the butt to get to. No one would grief it, but no one wanted to use it because it was just such a pain to get to. This used to be one of my friend's rooms or apartments that she doesn't play anymore, but yeah, she had moved someplace else after living in here for a year or so. Actually, the reason all this water is here, on the Xbox 360 edition of Minecraft, I don't know if it's still a glitch on that version, but on the 360 edition of the game, if you placed an ice block and then put a torch next to it, the ice would oftentimes melt, but the water wouldn't actually spread out. The water would just float in like a block of liquid water. So that's what this used to be. Obviously, it is not that anymore. Don't ask me this... Oh god, I remember the story behind this room. I can't tell the story behind this room. Not exactly appropriate for YouTube. Oh my god. Let's just say there was a bed in the middle of that cage at one point. This was originally my friend's room again. She had 2 floors, but then one of my other friends bought this room, and then he lived in here for a while. That there he hung a cow from, and had a cow just hanging over the city. Not sure why. Then we killed it, because there used to be, again, on the 360 version of the game, there used to actually be a limit to how many mobs could be in the world at any time. So we needed... And it was quite low, so we had to kill off a lot of people's farm animals so we could get farm animals. So this was my room. These blank spots on the wall here used to be diamond ore, or diamond, iron, and lapis and gold ore. So anything that was valuable I pretty much removed from the wall. But I had gotten a silk touch pickaxe and I placed the ores here. And I have my very, very expensive, fancy obsidian floor. This was just kind of like my big thing. I also had a vault that went in the next room up. There were like special vaults, specialty vaults up there that were extra secure, that actually did get used, because they were so secure because they were at the very, very top of the skyscraper. You can actually see here. There were just 2 of them. But yeah, no one bothered to raid these, because no one really bothered to get to the top of the skyscraper, and oh god. Okay, there's a hole in the safety railing. Great. Like I said, vandals did get up here eventually, but that was only when we built the Sky City over there, which I'll talk about in a minute. So, basically, the Sky City was built only, I want to say, about a month or 2 after the skyscraper itself was built. The skyscraper itself was kind of cool to live in at first, because I mean, really, no one could touch you up here. Griefers weren't going to waste the time coming to get you. A lot of the times, the Griefers were just like low-level players that would come on, and they wouldn't have any levels. They wouldn't have any, really, maybe the best gear they had would be like an iron pickaxe that they stole, and maybe a stone sword. They didn't have food a lot of the time, so just getting up here, they would run out of hunger and start dying from starvation before they even got up to grief anything. You can actually see right here where a creeper blew up part of the wall and it was never replaced properly. Like I said, there were little dark spots in the stairwell. So, after a while of getting bored of living here, we ended up... Which, oh yeah, by the way, this was... My friend here broke the rules about not altering the walls of the skyscraper and built a balcony, which completely ruined my view. But this was my personal balcony where you could see... on a clear day when it wasn't raining. It was really cool at night because you could see out and you could see the lights of the city and you could see everything lit up at night. It was pretty cool. But yeah, so we ended up building the Sky City. And the idea of the Sky City was kind of similar to the upper levels of the Skyscraper in that it was going to be only for the world's richest, most elite players, except the thing with the Sky City was you actually couldn't buy your way in. The Skyscraper, as long as you had $1,000, you could get a floor. The Sky City, the only way to get in was to be one of the original founding members of the world. So that was the idea, that basically the founders and some of the most trusted people on the world would live here, and we were going to have all these elite shops and stuff for them. And funny thing, not a single one of these stores ever saw any business, nor did they ever open or get completed. This battle arena used to have a boxing ring in the middle, but it was really used for all different PvP minigames that we played in survival mode. So that was interesting. It did get used a couple of times, but not as often as I would have liked it to have been used. This was our farm, which was another thing that was painstakingly created, because again, this was all survival mode, so this grass had to be obtained with a silk touch pickaxe, and all the animals, because we used to have sheep in here, all the animals, we had every kind of animal, sheep, wolves, cows, pigs, chickens, we had it all. All of the animals, except for chickens, we used the chicken eggs to throw them and hatch them. But all the animals, every single one of them, had to be guided very slowly and very carefully up this giant staircase. So just to run up the staircase by yourself would take a couple of minutes. So we had to get 2 of every animal up, which took like 20 minutes each, because the leads would always break. And, yeah, it was really a pain in the ass to get, but we eventually got them. And we put them up here, and they used to be up here, but I got rid of them because, again, we moved cities at one point, and then the mob limit had been reached. This was one of the founders of the world's houses that obviously never got finished. The cool thing about this was the way to get down from the city, which I'll show towards the end. You could jump here into that lake. That was the best way to get down. We had a memorial here. We had our own farm. We had our own tree farm up here because we realized that if we needed wood, we were kind of screwed. Underneath each one of these trees is a dirt block, so you can place the tree, and then we used to have bone meal in the chests. This was one of my old castles. I don't live in it anymore. It got vandalized. So you can see part of the doors missing. Part of the reason for that is it used to be I had a friend, I didn't do this because I wasn't good with redstone, but I had a friend rig it so if you'll see if I throw an item, it gets sucked into the ground and disappears. You used to have to throw an emerald, which would get sucked into something that would cause these doors to open, but that broke with an update. And this used to make a different sound. Again, they changed it with an update, but this was like an alarm to let me know that someone had entered my house. I had a small farm of my own in here. Again, the animals aren't there anymore. I had a library in here, but I removed all the bookshelves. I still have my own mycelium farm in there. This was... I don't even remember what this was. This was a kitchen. This was another kitchen, well, to cook stuff in. Then I had a garden in the back, which was neat. And a pool, which allowed you to look out and look down at the city beneath you. I really liked this castle. Honestly, this is one of my better creations in survival. The reason why it just never stayed was because it just didn't really make sense to keep it. Well, to keep living in it anyway. Because for one, like most everything else related to the Skyscraper and Sky City, it was never finished. The Skyscraper in Sky City was just a flop. It was just a giant flop. No one really liked it, because it was cool to live up here for like the first week. And then we realized that what are we supposed to do? We can't mine. We can't go down and participate in the faction wars going down below. All we can do is kind of run around and do our own thing. And at that time, the world was going through a bit of an economic crisis. We didn't really have... our money system was kind of becoming useless because there were so many wars going on that the currency just wasn't stable anymore. And it was cheaper to go out and raid another faction and kill another faction than it was to actually earn money by selling things, so that became part of an issue. These towers are all empty except for this one here, which has a brewing station, if I can get... There we go. Yeah, we used to have brewing stands in here, but other than that, these towers are empty. Really, this whole thing was just a massive failure as far as functionality. Design-wise, it was cool, but functionality, it was a massive failure. So, that being said, that's going to be it for this video. Not one of my best Minecraft creations, obviously. In the next episode, I'm going to be covering... probably some of the smaller cities from the original part of the world, and then I will cover one of the newer cities after that. But that being said, if you like this video, leave a like on it. Subscribe if you want to see more, because I'll be posting more. I have some Halo videos I want to put out soon, too, because Halo 3 just came out on PC. And, yeah, thank you for watching. Have a great day, and stay safe as always. Goodbye, guys.